Hello everyone, sorry I haven't filmed for over the last week. I've had throat infections, so I've not been able to speak, so it would have been pretty difficult to do anything. I probably could have done something, but I'm not very inventive. So instead I'm doing my July wrap up a bit late, but my wrap ups are always late, we know this, but they're a little bit too late this month. So I'm just going to jump straight into the video, so let's get started. The first book I finished was PSI Still Love You by Jenny Han. Now this is the second book in the To All the Boys I Loved Before series. I think it was meant to be a duology, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a series now. There's going to be another book. I don't know where they're going to go with it. We'll have to see. I much preferred Lara Jean's character in this story than I did in To All the Boys I Loved Before. To All the Boys I Loved Before, she just was very whingy. If you don't know what To All the Boys I've Loved Before is about, it's about Lara Jean who writes letters to all the boys she's ever loved, and they are only for her. They're not meant for anybody else to read, but one day all the letters get sent out and she has to deal with the consequences. In that book she was really whingy and annoying and she just drove me insane. This book she was a lot less like that. She was a little bit more mature. I'm not saying completely mature because she wasn't, but she was a little bit better, so I did prefer her character a little bit in this one. I absolutely loved John's character. He was so sweet. He was so lovely to Lara Jean, and you could just tell he really cared about her. And I just really thought his character was such a sweet character, especially in the situation he's in, and with all the other characters around him not being that great as well, because I didn't particularly like a lot of the characters. But yeah, John really helped me like the story a bit more. Peter annoyed me in this book. I really liked him in To All the Boys I Loved Before, but he just seemed like a bit of an idiot in this book, and it really wound me up. And I just could not get along with him. I mean, there was sometimes I was like, yeah, okay, you know, he's not been too bad, but then other times I was like, just shut up, like, stop annoying me. But yeah, it happened, and I'm just gonna have to deal with that. I really liked the direction we were taking in this book. I didn't know where it was going to go at all, but I did really enjoy the storyline. I don't want to say anything obviously about this one because it's the second book, but it was actually really good the way the story went, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And again, it was a nice easy read, so I didn't really have to use my brain that much. I felt like it showed that, you know, life isn't always easy. You do obviously come across bad patches, but it's not always going to be like that. Things will get better, and you've just got to kind of get through the hard times and the good times will be on their way, and I think that really did give that kind of message in this book. I absolutely loved how the family element between the three sisters was still present in this book. Even though it wasn't a major thing, it was still there, and I loved that in To All the Boys I Loved Before, so I was a bit worried that it wasn't going to be in this book as much, but it was, and I absolutely loved it. Not all the sisters were always together, but they were always kind of present in the background, and I really enjoyed that element. The ending annoyed me a little bit. I couldn't decide what I thought of it when I first read it, so I've taken a little while to think about it, but I do think it annoyed me a bit, because I think it was a bit of a cop-out. I would have liked it to end differently, definitely. I think it just ended in a really obvious way, and I was like, I didn't want it to end like that, but it did, and I'm going to have to deal with that, and if there is a third book, which I think there is, I'm going to read that, and hopefully things will change in that. But I just did not like the ending. It really annoyed me. However, I did like the rest of the book. It was all good, so I did give it 4 stars. The next book I read was actually a graphic novel, and that was Fairest, The Clamour for Glamour, and this is by Mark Buckingham and Bill Willingham. And I really enjoyed this again. It wasn't my favourite in the series. This is actually the final in the series. It really wasn't my favourite in the series, I wouldn't say at all. I did like some of the characters, but I didn't feel like I was getting attached to any of the characters. And I like to do that, and I have done in some of the other volumes as well. So, it was a good series overall, but wasn't my favourite volume. So in this we meet Reynard. Now Reynard can change from being a fox to a human, and he lives on a farm, and none of the other animals can do this because they don't have the glamours, and they want their own glamours because they are jealous of him. Now, Reynard also likes to boast about his experiences he has, because obviously if he changes to human, he can go out further and adventure the world and things like that, and he likes to boast about all this. So, he gets banished from the farm and dropped onto another farm or another house. I think it's a farm, but I can't remember. And he meets a girl called Megan. Now Megan lives with her uncle and cousin, and they really don't treat her very nice at all. So when Megan and Reynard meet, they decide to run away together and escape this horrible life that Megan has. On that run, they do kind of fall in love and all that lot, and she ends up pregnant. But Reynard is half fox, half human. So it's like, how are these children going to turn out? As well as this, back on the farm, the animals are obviously trying to find their own glamours so they can experience all the things that Reynard is. But there is a flower on the farm, and this flower is a bit evil and wants all the glamours for himself. This sounds like a really weird story when I'm talking about it. I promise it's not that weird. So there's kind of two storylines going on at once. There's the Megan and Reynard storyline, and there's the farm animals storyline. Like I said, it wasn't my favourite volume. There have been better ones, but it was still good. I did still like it, it just wasn't my favourite. I did feel like I was getting confused in places, which was losing my attention a little bit, but the images inside all the illustrations really helped with that, because I could tell from the illustrations what was happening, and that kind of helped me get back on track and enjoy the story more. I really liked the bond between the animals on the farm. They all had their own completely different personalities, and you could really tell that through the writing. And that's something that can be a little bit difficult, I think, with having obviously a graphic novel. It's not full text, but it really came across well, and that was probably my favourite bit about the story, the animals on the farm and their own personalities, because you could always tell which animal was which. Once again, I did really like the illustrations in this as well. The illustrations throughout the whole series have been fantastic. I really have loved reading through it and looking at all the illustrations, because they are just beautiful. Like, here's a page there where I just think it's really pretty. The colours are just so bright, and the drawings are just fantastic. So yeah, that was definitely a plus side with the story. Again, the illustrations have been fantastic throughout the whole series. Overall, I give this a 3 stars because, like I said, it wasn't my favourite. It was fine, I liked it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as some of the other ones. The next book I finally read, and I'm so glad I got round to, that was the Disney book by Jim Fanning. I finally read it. This has been on my TBR for I don't know how many months, and the lighting's making it all go a bit weird because it's a bit shiny. But it's fine, and it's really heavy, so I'm not going to talk for too long about this one. This is about all things Disney. It talks about the films, the characters, Walt Disney's life himself, the parks, the merchandise, absolutely everything you can think of. I loved reading about the film production, so how the films came to life, what the initial ideas were and how they were brought to life. I really enjoyed that, and obviously it has changed over the years and you get to see that. As well as the text in the book, there's a lot of pictures as well of the merchandise, the parks, the characters, the creation of the characters, so like drawings and the CGI and things like that. Really, really nice images to look at while you're reading through it as well. I liked how it talked about each development of the film process, so it went from like the initial ideas all the way through to when they're doing the production, the post-production and the advertising and things like that. So it was really nice to see the whole process and not just learn about the actual films themselves. There was lots of facts and figures about the parks in this book, which I loved reading about because I absolutely love the Disney parks. They are so magical. I've only been to 2, but I do plan on going to all of them. I've been to Paris and I've been to California, and I really do want to go to all of them. Another thing I really liked about it, I don't know whether you can see that very well, but another thing I really liked about it was at the beginning of the book there was a timeline. So it goes through on the other pages as well, all the way through about 3 or 4 pages of timeline of right from the beginning of all the animations and the shorts and everything that's kind of happened within Disney at the time, and I really enjoyed that, and it kind of was a nice introduction to the book. So yeah, it's just a perfect book for Disney fans. I definitely recommend this if you're a Disney fan. The only thing I would say is some of it did get a little bit confusing with the descriptions of things, but I think that's just because I didn't know all of the terminology. I think if I did know all the terminology, I would understand it completely, but it did get a little bit confusing at times. But overall, really enjoyed it, and I give it 4 stars, and if you're a Disney fan, definitely pick this up. The next book I read was my reread of the month, and that was The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. I loved this book first time round, and I really enjoyed it second time round as well. It's just lovely, and the writing is so simple as well, so like not just adults can understand it, children can as well. It is actually a children's book, I'm pretty sure, but it covers quite a serious topic. It is about, I don't want to say too much because I feel like this one you've kind of got to go into it not knowing too much, but it's about a little boy called Bruno, and Bruno has to move from his home in Berlin, I think it is. I think it's Berlin, and he has a beautiful house there, and he has to move because his dad is a soldier and he has to move for his work. So they move to this new house and they really don't like it at all. Like, they find it really hard to settle in, especially Bruno. But Bruno notices out of his window a huge big fence in the distance, and Bruno likes adventuring, so he wants to know what's going on over there and whether there's any children to play with over that side, because he seems to be in the middle of nowhere and there's no children around. I really don't want to say much more, to be honest. It does cover very serious topics, and because of that, adults can read it as well, I think. Like, absolutely fine. It is a children's book, like I said, but it is written in such a way that children can understand it really easily without it being too upsetting for them, but then adults can read it and completely understand every little element. And it is just brilliant. Like, I can't quite get my head around how a children's book can be this informative and educational, covering a topic that is quite nasty, well, very nasty, but it works, and I just thought it was great. I loved Bruno's innocence throughout all of this, because you can tell he's a child, he doesn't understand anything. They don't try to explain to him what's going on though, because it's not very nice, but he just is so innocent and he doesn't get it, and he meets a little boy as well while he's over at the fence, but he's on the other side of the fence, I will say that. And Bruno was like, well, I want to come over at the other side so I can play, and obviously he can't. So yeah. His innocence was so sweet, but at the same time, I just wanted to give him a hug a bit and tell him everything's going to be okay, because he didn't understand anything. The friendship between Bruno and this other little boy is just extraordinary. It is unbelievable, considering they can't actually play together because they're on different sides of the fence. They become friends instantly, and they are such good support systems to each other. They help each other out so much, and the conversations they have between each other are just so sweet. The only thing I would say is the last chapter was very vague. I understand why it was vague, but I don't think it needed to be as vague as it was. I definitely think they could have extended it a little bit, but it was still really good, and I give this 4 stars as well. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend it to anyone. And the final book I read was also a reread, and that was New Moon by Stephanie Meyer. I am trying to get through the whole of the Twilight series at the minute. This took me ages to read, but I did manage to read it. And I think it's just because it's quite slow. This is the second book in the Twilight series. If you don't know, I'm sure you all know what Twilight's about, so I'm not going to go into that. But in this one, I just felt like a lot of it was just Bella moping around, because at this point the Cullens have left. So she's moping around, just doing nothing, and I just feel like there was a little bit too much of that. Like, this book is quite thick, and I do think it could have been condensed down quite a lot. What I did like is the friendship between Jacob and Bella. I've always liked Jacob, don't judge me. I've always liked Jacob, so that was kind of nice to read a lot more about him again. But apart from that, it was kind of like, why is this book so long? I did like the ending though. I did really like the ending, and it got much quicker at the end again. And it was nice to get introduced to the Volturi as well. Can't even say that word properly. But it was good to be introduced to new characters, because although I've seen all the films and I have read all the books, it's been ages since I've watched the films and read the books. So it's kind of nice to be introduced to new characters, which I know are going to be present in the future books as well. So that is good. And I really like that group as well. I think they're a good, strong group of new characters. I really liked the LaPush gang and Jacob, like I said before. They are very different to the rest of the characters, and I like that, and you can tell they're completely different. I always kind of was more on the wolf side than I was on the vampire side anyway, so it is probably just because of that, but I did think they had quite strong character development, whereas the other characters I don't think did at all. Bella annoyed me, but what's new there? It was just literally because she was just moping around doing nothing for most of it. But yeah, I just feel like she just needs to smile, and I don't think she knows how to a lot of the time. But why is the book so big? It's like, it shouldn't, I definitely think it should be condensed more. Yeah, it was kind of annoying, but I got there in the end anyway, and yes, I'm going to push myself through the rest of the series, because that's what I'm like. I only give this 3 stars though. It just wasn't as good as I remembered. So that is it for my July wrap up. I hope you've enjoyed it. I did manage to get everything read I wanted to read this month as well, or last month as well, so that is brilliant. I'm hoping to do the same again this month. I have already finished one book and I plan on starting another book, which by the time this video is up I've probably also finished as well, but we'll see. And I just really want to get everything read next month because I have so many good books on my list and I will be sharing them with you very soon, obviously in my August TBR. Sorry they are late videos. I will try my best to not get ill this month so I can still speak to you all. But if I am like not around videoing for a little while, my blog is still always up and running. I'm always posting on my blog, so if for some reason I can't film, my blog is always getting updated, so that will be in the links in the description below if you want to go check that out as well. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and by all means leave any comments as well. Let me know what you read last month and what was your favourite book, and I will see you all in my next video very soon. Bye!